passionate now about inner law, you know, and about our inner law and how we honor our law, because we all have our own law, so we have to honor it. And if you see the brand eLAWvated, it's how to elevate the law within you, you know, and your right within you, and something that it fits to your soul.
Well, I'm curious to hear more about what the two of you are doing now and how it relates to potentially to me, and what what are you trying to accomplish right now with including other people into your message?
Yes, this is very important to know and to create like a frame in this elevation brand, right? The people we try to bring together and to inspire, you know, people that they can have an impact in the lawyer's life. Our purpose is to show them that life is more, you know, is more than a lawyer. They have more life, more perspective, and to open a little bit the lawyer's perspective, you know, first opening the heart and bringing them a little bit closer to who you really are. Not, I mean, and taking the lawyers from that, you know, stigma and this attachment, being a lawyer, and, you know, going through the society and through the world with this label, I'm a lawyer, and being so attached to this, you know. So our purpose, and we appreciate and we think you are a great inspiration, and your resources can have such an impact to lawyers' life. Yes, this is the purpose. I think this is the most
yeah, and also to create such a support for lawyers, because I know your passionate subject is talking about fear, and we are in a period where everyone needs support, and being aware what fear means and how can we help them in state of fear to choose love. And I know this is your subject, the preferred subject, right?
Fear is right now probably, this is my opinion, I believe that fear is really the most influential force in our society, which is not a good thing, because fear does not really prevent anything bad from happening. It certainly doesn't prevent death. It does prevent life, which is what a lot of people are really losing right now, is their life. And when I say their life, I mean both in a physical way. People are dying because of fear. They're not going to see their doctors. They're not getting breast cancer treatments. They're not getting coronary artery bypass surgeries. They're not getting hip replacements, so they're falling. They're not getting diabetes treatments. They're not getting skin cancer tests. They're not having their skin checked. So they're getting malignant cancers that are spreading to the rest of their body and killing them. And in addition to the actual loss of physical life, there's also the metaphorical loss, which is people have lost their freedom, they've lost their vitality, they've lost their passion, they've lost relationship connections with their parents and children. And in my view, it is 100% based on fear. It is not based on anything real or tangible. It's an emotional state. And until we actually address that, we're not going to be able to move forward as a country. That's my position. And I've been speaking about this, you know, very, very frequently and with a lot of passion, and when appropriate and when useful, I also supply objective information. But my experience in the last few months has been that information is not a very powerful source of influence over people who are terrified. It goes in one ear and out the other. They just don't care. When you're scared, you don't care about what is informationally based. All you care about is your perception of safety.
wow.
So we have to provide perception of safety before we provide information.
You think the people your notice they deny?
I think that they are depending on the level of terror that they're in, they either actively deny or they accept intellectually, but because it doesn't move them emotionally, they disregard it. And it depends on how scared they are. Some of my patients, for example, are anxious, but they're not terrified. And so I give them information. They say, oh, that makes sense. I don't disagree with you. I think that sounds very reasonable. I have no reason to not go outside, live my life. I have no reason to stay at home and just do everything over the computer. I see what you're saying, and I think I'd be happier outside, but I just don't feel comfortable. That's the low-level response. And then the higher level, which is not uncommon, unfortunately, is the hysteria, the terror. And they say, for example, I had a mother who refused to bring her 16-year-old son to see me last week. And she said, she likes the word we because it makes it sound like her husband, she, and her child are all in agreement. But really what she meant was I.
Right.
She said, because I talked to them later, the son and the husband are fine. So she says we, the royal we. We haven't been outside. We haven't done much. We haven't been in big buildings, whatever that means. We haven't shopped. We haven't gone to the park. We're not comfortable with that yet. And I asked her a few just challenging questions. Well, you seem to be very afraid. She said, I'm not afraid as long as I don't leave my house. I said, okay, so you are living in fear, because if you're living in a house that you can't leave without being afraid, you're living in fear. And she got very angry, very argumentative. And I said, you seem to be very scared and you want to go back to a normal life. So why don't you get hydroxychloroquine prophylaxis, which is 90% plus effective in preventing the infection of this virus? And that's shown to be true in most of the countries outside of the US and Western Europe for about 65 years. It's worked for malaria. It's been working really well for this drug, for this disease. And she said, I don't like to do that. I don't want to do it. I said, why? I just don't like medication. It makes me scared. I said, well, you have a choice to make. You can choose this fear or that fear. And it seems like you want to choose to be isolated at home in a sort of state of self-lockdown, of house arrest. And after a couple minutes, I could tell that she wasn't able to hear what I was saying. She was shut down. She was reacting in terror.
Frozen.
Nothing I said was getting through, nothing. And she's that example of the hysterical person who talking about information is useless. This person has to be led to a space emotionally where that person can calm down and breathe and listen and reflect. And a lot of Americans right now, especially in large cities, are not able to do that. So it's a gradation. But overall, the source of it is fear. And unless we deal with it at the appropriate level, then I don't think that all of these what I call them kind of, they're like feel-good behaviors or mandates, like distancing, masking, gloving, hand washing, all of these things, they're a desperate grasp for people to find something to make themselves feel safe, but they don't really do anything any more than putting garlic around your neck keeps the vampires away. But it makes you feel good. I have the garlic, I have the special amulet to ward off the demons, but they aren't really protecting you from anything except your own feelings. And people are using these masks as a way to keep themselves feeling safe, but it really doesn't do any good.
Yeah,
so
but
the placebo is not working even?
What?
The placebo.
Well, the problem with the placebo is that placebo by definition doesn't harm you. Like garlic won't harm you. If you want to wear garlic around your neck, it's fine. It's not going to hurt anybody. You can eat it, helps your digestion. But the problem with the mask is that it actually does harm because it's dehumanizing. It blocks off the face, which it's amazing. We have agreed in a matter of months to take a course of action that no religious persecution could ever have achieved. If we had had an Islamic invasion into this country, people would have fought to the death to keep their faces from being covered with the abaya and the hijab and the niqab and all of these things that I believe are so dehumanizing, especially for women. And yet especially women, first of all, have accepted this immediately as this wonderful liberty. This is freeing to me to be covered like this. And so the mask is dehumanizing. It's also fear-inducing. It creates more fear because now you see people who are afraid. It also creates distance and social unease, dis-ease, because you can't read facial expressions. It scares small children. It prevents them from being able to play and touch their friends, which children need to touch and grab, they need to roll around. And then you also have all the health problems. You have skin rashes, you have the collection of dirt, dust, and disease. You have immunologic collapse because if you don't get exposed to the world, your immune system starts to go to sleep and then you can't resist other infections. there's a whole host of physical, psychological, social, and I would say humane kinds of problems with this. So if it were really something like you know, putting a little circle on your hand with a pen, that would be a placebo effect. But when you're causing direct harm to yourself and others, it's actually it's an anti-placebo. It does no good and it also hurts you.
Yeah, it's a collective fear that it's affecting even the people who are strong and they're working on the positive thinking. Even those people, it's subconscious. It's affecting, because I see myself. I don't like to wear mask, but I have to.
You're forced to.
Yeah, and it's forcing, and somehow I find myself like feeling like a voice inside of me saying you have to. It's a collective.
That's such a good point. It's the pressure. It's not like you have the option. If you want to feel good, you take your placebo. This is a mandate. So people who feel okay feel this pressure, social and legal pressure, to wear it, and then they start to feel that if they don't wear it, that they're doing something wrong, that they're harming others, or they're putting themselves at risk, which is all emotional. And so eventually, this becomes a sort of cult of behavior, and it starts to become impossible to get out of. Can you imagine if one day you go into a store and the store says, no more masks, you don't have to wear a mask, we're not going to have plexiglass screens at the cash register, we're going to have grocers put the food in the bag now so they actually touch the food again. All of these things, you probably would feel a bit uncomfortable. Exactly. Even though you know it's totally normal. It was normal until 6 months ago, but now you're feeling like something's wrong, something's wrong. Exactly. And so the stores can never go back. There's no going back from this, because it's become so accepted that if this is safe, if now is safe, and then we change it, it's no longer safe again, is it?
Yes, I said this, when they create this pattern, our psychological pattern, the patterns start to have their own law and their own right, and say, why? You teach me to be like this, to behave like this, now why you tell me something different now? And after it's the resistance coming, and it's a conflict, inner conflict, and after, when is this fear, our brain is searching from this situation, as you said before, is denying to hear the good information, but the people are so open to hear, you know, to the bad information, because they search for this, they feel comfortable in the fear, they feel, okay, this is true, you see, it's confirming what I said, and they start being so defensive, and you know, it's a circle of you know, like a domino.
It's a circle.
Yeah.
The circle that goes down like a screw.
Yes, and
just goes down, down, down. You cannot go up again.
And especially for lawyers, I was thinking for lawyers, and to speak about this, the fear for lawyers, they have they live in a fear, you know, they live in a fear, the fear that they are not good enough, the fear of guilty is their fear, they took the emotion for clients. I mean, this feeling, it's so present in lawyers' life, you know, and now it's worse, you know, it's amplifying. What do you think it could be a kind of solution, something to get rid of this fear, some options to cope with fear?
There's two primary paths. One of them is out of our control. One of them is within our control, largely out of our control. The first area that's largely out of our control is the mandates, the laws, the regulations, businesses closed, schools closed, parks closed, museums closed, businesses, bars. Those are areas where if we had access and freedom to be back in those zones, I think the fear would diminish. But we don't have control over that, because there are people who are in positions of power who are managing and controlling our access to healthy alternatives to staying inside. We do have some ability to control that indirectly through advocacy, activism, writing letters, marching in the streets. You know, our civic action can theoretically modify that, and we can take action, but it's very difficult to do alone. You have to do it as a group, which is why America's Frontline Doctors went to DC, because as a group, we were far more powerful than just one person. You know, we did our talk, very few people know this, but we had 3.5 hours of education in the morning, 3.5 hours in the afternoon, all information-based. And in the middle, we had this 45-minute speech on the Supreme Court steps. And it was that speech that created the most attention and caused the most reaction. We had 185,000 simultaneous views.
Wow.
And over 13 million reposts in the first 4 hours, and then ultimately 18 million in 8 hours. And when we hit the 17 million mark, that's when YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, everything removed, all taken down.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So the community, I think the community is very important to be supportive.
Yeah.
I mean, and to know.
That's the first point.
Yes. Yeah,
That's absolutely true. You need the community because as an individual, you can't go outside and change things. It's very, very hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important part, especially for people who are cut off from a sense of purpose and a sense of productivity in their professional life. Maybe they can't go to court, they can't do their depositions, or they have to be remote. All their clients are scared, court is closed, everything's delayed. So you're sitting around saying, I'm not doing anything in my professional life now that's meaningful. If you redirect that intellectual, educational, professional energy into something that's civic through a group, I think that can bring back a sense of empowerment and purpose, which I think is very, very important. Yeah. I certainly have found that personally. I was very isolated professionally for several months. My patients were scared to come in. I felt like I couldn't help them anymore because my patients were so scared that they wouldn't respond to my therapy or my medication. It was very disappointing. So I joined some groups, and I'm now doing lots of press conferences, phone calls, videos, podcasts. I find that to be very helpful personally, and I think others are as well. Mm-hmm. The second area, which I think is internal, which is entirely within your control, has to do with the way that you make choices about your physical and psychological and emotional health. And this is something I've been teaching and educating my patients on for years, and I think it's even more important now. It starts with sleep, diet, and exercise. You need to maintain regular sleep hygiene. Most people have done a terrible job with that recently because they don't have to get up in the morning. So they sleep in, they watch lots of bad television, they watch the news, which makes them crazy, instead of reading books, listening to music, things that are very calming and soothing, and also give you space for reflection. You can't reflect when you have CNN blasting in your ears 24/7. Also, obviously, exercise is critical, and a lot of people have stopped exercising. The average weight gain has been 15 pounds in the last 6 months among most Americans, which is a lot of weight. That's terrible. Exercise helps the immune system. It helps with relaxation. It helps with self-image. A lot of women have gained a lot of weight, and they feel very unhappy and ashamed of that. And that means that they don't want to go out because they look fat. I just spoke to 2 yesterday that haven't left the house in 6 months because they gained 15 pounds, and all they do is wear their sweat outfits. They can't do their hair. They can't get their makeup done. Their skin looks bad. It's all of the hygiene. They have a terrible time doing. So that exercise is so important to get out and to have a reason to go out, to look good and to feel good about yourself. And then finally, diet, meaning limiting alcohol intake, limiting drugs, and eliminating them if possible, eating healthy food.
I like how you said limiting drugs.
Well, there are some drugs that are probably not bad for you. Like, for example, oral CBD, I think, is actually a very good drug. Yeah. It doesn't cause a high. It doesn't cause an addiction. It doesn't cause you to get psychotic. Yeah, and it's a very healthy drug, although it is technically a drug.
Yeah,
but I do recommend.
It's a drug. I mean, we name drugs CBD.
Yeah, drugs is a hard term to define. It kind of depends on your opinion. But right. I think most people still call CBD a drug. Certainly alcohol is a drug, and I know a lot of people have started drinking more heavily, which leads to increased calories, fatigue, loss of motivation, difficulties with sleep. I'm not against alcohol, but I think the way people are using it now is not healthy. A lot of people have started smoking again, all kinds of problems. So these are the three things I think most people have really failed to focus on in the last few months, and they are very much within your control to change, very, very much. And then, beyond that, I think that to the extent that you have the capacity, the ability, the courage, I think it is so important to acknowledge that you are afraid. Mm-hmm. And to not deny it, and to not argue with it, and to not agree that it's good or that it's necessary, but to acknowledge that you feel that and to act in spite of it. Mm-hmm. I said this at the Orange County School Board meeting when they were voting to open or close the schools for the fall. And my 2-minute talk at the end of the conference was reposted somewhere. And then the Wall Street Journal picked it up and it was printed in the Wall Street Journal. It was just a 3-paragraph quote that I was tired. I'd been there for 5 hours. It was 10:30 at night. And I just got up, I had no notes, and I just talked from my heart for about 2 minutes. And what I said essentially was that we're living in a state of fear. We are acting as if we're not afraid, and yet we're terrified. And we as parents and as adults owe it to the children to acknowledge that we're scared, to model what it looks like to act courageously in the spite of fear, and to do the right thing for them. Because if we don't do that, we're going to neglect our generation coming up, we're going to abuse them, we're going to allow them to fail, and we're going to limit their ability to flower as they get older.
Yeah.
And I know that it's hard. I know it's very difficult because fear is very controlling. But
it's another fear.
it's so funny, you know, up until recently, we saw fear as something to challenge us to move ahead. Now we're seeing that fear is like a virtue. The more afraid you are, the more obsessive you are, the more of a virtuous person you are. And that is not the case. When children were growing up until this year, every parent was scared on some level the moment that their child went to kindergarten. Oh my God, he's not going to be at home with me. What's going to happen? Every parent was scared when her child left for college. Oh my God, my child's not going to be with me at home. Every parent is scared when their kid goes to camp for the first time. Oh my gosh, he's sleeping away from home. How is he going to survive? Every parent is scared when their child gets married. Oh my God, what if the marriage doesn't work out? I don't like that woman he married. I think she's going to be the death of him. Oh, I wish he would find someone else. This happens throughout all of life. But parents who are healthy, they don't keep their kids from going to school. They don't keep them from going to camp. They don't keep them from going to college. They don't keep them from going and getting married. And if they did, they would be considered a bad parent. But now, keeping your kid at home, keeping them from camp, keeping them from playing, keeping them from dating, that's considered to be a great parent. This is upside down. It's absolutely sick. Yeah. It is sick. And we have to as adults, and I'm using parents as an example because I was talking to schools, but it's true no matter what the relationship is, even if it's with yourself, which is the first relationship you have, you really need to acknowledge that you're scared and to say, I'm really scared, but I'm going to go ahead and do what's right, even if it makes me feel bad, because once I get through it, then on the other side, I'm going to feel empowered. I'm going to feel proud. I'm going to feel safer. I'm going to feel like I have choices. Yeah. Because if you do the opposite and you just stay at home and you lock yourself in, your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you're living literally in a cell. And you're afraid that if you go outside of your cell, you're going to die. And that is not a way to live.
It's so true, this, and I think it's such an important point, this, to, you know, what you said, to recognize, because when you recognize, first of all, you have to allow yourself to be, you know, to be in touch with that emotions. And you recognize and you see that if more people, they recognize, you see, you are not alone. So you are not that fear for expressing the fear, and you know, it's fear after fear, it's duplicating the fear. And when you see other people around that they are in the same situation, you feel like more safe, you know, safe to open, safe to allow yourself to feel like, because it's, oh, okay, I'm not gonna be judged, I'm not gonna be, it's this
appartenance to a fear.
Yes, it's, I mean, something like, as I said, community and this support. And we felt this since the pandemic comes. We did a lot of Zoom meetings and we had this calling and said, okay, let's see what is the benefit from this, you know, from this fear. Okay, what about going together and recognizing we all have fear and how we can create a better relationship, you know, feeling closer and to build different kind of connection through the fear. Okay, we admit we have fear, you have fear, but this makes us the same, right? And we feel safe. And I think now, as you said, the paradigm they try, I mean, this crazy pandemic is trying people to switch a different perception and to reframe the different normal, but it's not a normal. Now I think this be different. It's more important.
There is no new normal. There's normal and abnormal.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think now it's so important to build these forces and to stay together and to create like different leadership, like what is normal, you know, not what we were told, but this self-leadership, the people to be in touch with the truth, and the people, they own their truth, and to, you know, to take time and to honor the truth. And from there,
to get more in touch with the self, self and with the parts of the self, because our self is not just the fear. We have also many parts. And if we create kind of, through meditation, through different talk groups, support, even when somebody express and it's free to express the fear, it's kind of healing, because you already express your fear and you are feeling in a support group.
And I like what you said, Mark, so much about this not having satisfaction in the work, you know, which is true, but putting the attention in different kind of satisfaction, and this is the purpose. I think the purpose is our human, you know, human healthy
nature,
human and
self.
I love this switch, you know, this perception. It's so, I think it's so smart.
Well, I used to tell people, you don't need to feel afraid because, and I give them very good reasons not to feel afraid, but it didn't resonate with them. It wasn't helpful. So now I tell them, you seem scared. Can you tell me how you're feeling? And encourage them to express it. And then once they're admitting that they're scared, and then I ask them, well, would you prefer to feel safe? Would you prefer to feel less afraid? Would you prefer to feel maybe anxious but still active, anxious but productive? And most people, if they're honest, will say, oh, I wish I could. I just don't know how to do it. And then I'll say, okay, now I know that they're motivated to hear something that's a solution, as opposed to arguing with them.
Because you give them choice. Yes.
Yeah.
They have to be willing and interested in something different. And they also have to be open to the possibility that you can be afraid, but still be vital and alive.
Yeah.
You don't always have to feel safe in order to be alive. In fact, the goal of life is not to be safe. That is a false starting point. You don't want on your gravestone when you die to say, you know, here lies Alina and Andrea. They never took any risks and they felt safe until the day they died.
What is doing our brain after? Why we were? Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And are you doing also psychotherapy for your patients, or what is your main activity as a doctor?
Well, I do about 2/3 medication management, about 1/3 therapy. And I was doing psychoanalytic work until this past year. And then I froze it because it's just impossible to do psychoanalysis anymore. People are just not accessible to it. And very few people are willing to come in multiple days a week to the office. So I'm doing in-office talk therapy with several patients twice a week. And I'm also doing a lot of medication management. So it's a mixture of both. I really like talk therapy, but to be honest, there's very few people that I've seen recently who I believe are open to it. They're so perpetually terrified that they're just not able to actually use the therapy anymore. Maybe they can use it as a way to vent and as a way to just express how upset they are, but I don't find that the therapy for most of my patients is really being very useful to them. And so several of my patients, they just quit because they couldn't bring themselves, their whole self to the office. They would bring their body to the office, but their mind was somewhere else. And I just felt like it wasn't really helping them anymore. So this is a unique time, but in general, you know, the answer to your question, in general, I do spend quite a lot of my work hours doing therapy. It's just that right now it's a bit strange and it's very hard to do.
Yeah, and if it's not the person being aware that need helps, you can help somebody. I had cases when people were coming to me and were like, okay, let me know how can you fix this stuff for me? And I'm like, I'm not gonna fix, you're gonna fix, I'm gonna guide you, I'm gonna be with you, but it's your willing power that drives you to fix your things and to be better.
That's very true.
Yeah, because people, we like a therapist, like a psychotherapy, we can fix them, but if somebody is not willing and fighting for the freedom of the heart, you can help somebody.
I completely agree. This isn't surgery.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in your process, so you see that people, the denying, it's such a, I mean, it's so powerful that they are even scared to go to approach what is there. I mean, it's such a. So.
I think that this well, I was going to say the pandemic, but to be very clear, it's not really the pandemic. It's the government response to the pandemic that is elevating this tension. I think that it's activated and exacerbated, amplified a lot of personality traits that have already been present, but they just were under control. It's similar to what happens when people drink a lot of alcohol. They don't become different people, they become more of who they already were. So the man who is kind of aggressive and dismissive and controlling towards women, once he drinks a lot, now he starts grabbing them and, you know, pulling them into the car and saying, you're going to come home with me. And then the person who is very humorous and funny, but kind of, you know, under the table, doesn't really like to act out a lot. That person drinks a lot and suddenly he wants to stand up and tell jokes because now he has an audience. People get, their good and bad traits get exacerbated. And I think that this has happened to a large degree with people because of all of the fear. I think people who were already a bit neurotic, a bit scared, maybe a little anxious, but they got through it. They had family, friends, exercise, work. Now they don't have that. And so now they're really locked in. And then other people, and I know this is a smaller number of people, especially in LA, but they do exist, who were living courageously, fearlessly. They were going out taking risks. They were building up enterprises. Those people are now making videos about how we need to get ourselves back to work. We have parents who are now demanding that their children go back to school because these are very courageous women who've always been courageous, but maybe they were courageous just in the home or with as a wife. Now they want to go out in the streets and save their child.
Yeah.
So I think it's really exposed a lot of people for who they really are underneath. And you're starting to see the core person come out that was maybe under wraps before. I think that's how I would describe the effect. It's not that it's made everybody bad. It's just brought out a lot of bad in people that was already there.
All the truth.
Yeah.
Who you really are.
True person.
It's interesting. It's like, yes, I get what you say. It's like people from one side, they say I'm allowed to do anything I want because now it's, you know, something like they have this unhealthy courage to act in a state like, okay, I'm, you know, I'm not responsible, you know, because they, I think the people, they wait for the government or from somewhere to be told, and they can do, and they can be rebellious. But this is the problem. I think the people are not aware that they have to engage the self-leadership and the to get in touch. What is good for me? I have for me to decide what makes me feeling good. What makes me feeling.
That's a really good point.
Healthy.
I think what you're onto something that's very important, which is that if you already have a sense of self-orientation, that you follow the dictates of what you have worked towards inside, when everything collapses around you, it doesn't change anything because you still have your self-direction. But if you're relying on the outside to give you a compass, to tell you where north and south is, and to restrain some of your bad behaviors, like throwing trash out of your car window, or taking the free stuff home with you at the restaurant and putting it in your pocket, or being rude to people on the street because they're not walking fast enough. If that's who you are now with social pressure, take away the social pressure, and now breaking windows and stealing merchandise, pushing old women down on the ground because they don't get out of the way quickly, setting fires. This behavior is behavior that's coming out because there's no external pressure, and those people don't have any internal guidance.
Yes.
So I think this is a nice, well, it's not nice, but it's a clear, this pandemic has caused a clear reflection of the presence or absence of internal self-control and internal guidance.
Yes, this is important because it's another, they can behave like in a good way, but from the place of fear, you know, like fear not being judged, fear to behave good, fear not to break my image, and fear not, it's another fear. But when you do things from your self-conscious and from your, like nobody's seeing you and nobody's, you know, giving you a reward or something, this is, I think this is the place of healthy place from where people, and I feel that now it's a big opportunity for people to make this shift and to make this change and to make like, okay, now I have to take care of myself and to be who I want the world, you know, make the change like Mahatma Gandhi said, change the change you want to see in the world. And I think now it's necessary this
yeah, and it's also related to the faith. How much faith you have, because if you are not in a faith, if you don't have faith, you can survive. It's all in your mind. It's all you can fight with yourself. You have to
I think you're absolutely right. That, you know, one of the books that's influenced me the most has been Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
He guided himself and his life after the concentration camp, during and after, through specifically a sense of meaning inside of himself. If you don't have that meaning, if your meaning comes from the outside and suddenly the outside goes down, you don't really have anything left.
It's amazing.
And we have so much inside of us. This is the abstract behavior of people, because we have so much inside. If we take time to discover who we really are every single day, we can discover more and more about ourselves, and also about others. If we involve with the presence others people, like we can see them as they are, not as they want to present themselves.
That's true too. I think you're right.
I would love to create like a support group for lawyers to have.
They could certainly use it.
Yeah, would be great.
I'm curious how.
What is your mission in Americans Frontline Doctors?
Well, my role and my purpose in that group, very specifically, is to help address the influence of fear and how it is guiding and maintaining the direction and grip over our country, specifically as it relates to children and schools. That's the area that I focus on. I do talk about other issues like treatment interventions and the influence of special interest groups over corrupting our freedoms and our abilities to work and live and go out about in our lives. But my core area, which is my professional area of work, has to do with feelings and children. And so that's really what I try to offer the group. There are others who talk about these other subjects, but I talk about these extensively. And it seems that the fear touches on every one of the other subjects. The treatment option, for example, with hydroxychloroquine, the main reason why that drug is no longer available or accessible to most people is that most Americans have now been told that they should be afraid of it.
Wow. Why?
It's a lie. It's a complete lie. And the why, the answer to the why, goes outside of my area, but is a very important one, which is power and money. That's the two factors. And any group that is interested in obtaining and maintaining more power and more money has joined forces to go against this drug and to smear its name so that people are afraid of it and believe that it's going to harm them. This drug was considered to be a standard necessary medication by the World Health Organization for 65 years for the treatment of malaria in most countries in the world. And until 2020, it was considered to be safe, effective, and cheap by every government agency of all stripes. It was a non-political issue, and it's been used by women on a daily basis for 20 or 30 years to treat lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. It's been given to children, pregnant women, nursing women, old people for malaria prophylaxis in many different forms, from quinine to chloroquine to mefloquine to levaquin to hydroxychloroquine over the decades. It was only in January of this year that the drug started to be attacked. And it was attacked not because of President Trump's tweet about, I think this is a good drug, which was in March. It happened in January. So it was pre-political. It became political, but before it was political, it was about power and money. Because in January, a company called Gilead produced a drug called remdesivir, which was found to shorten hospital stay by 3 days for people who were infected with coronavirus, which is okay, not great, but it's something. That drug, once that drug came out, it's under patent. So you make a lot of money off of it. Once that drug came out and hydroxychloroquine was shown to actually be more effective than remdesivir, the company started to attack hydroxychloroquine as a dangerous drug, because you know how much hydroxychloroquine costs per month for treatment for prophylaxis of this infection? About $8. $8 per month.
This is everything, yeah.
Do you know how much remdesivir costs per month?
How much?
$3,500.
Wow.
What costs like that? What?
Another
Remdesivir.
Okay. And the drug, you said, have you seen people, the first one, the cheap one, have you seen people they had healed through this drug?
I worked with about 8 doctors in DC with this America's Frontline Doctors Group. Most of those doctors have been prescribing it to a very large number of patients. One doctor, in fact, has prescribed it to over 450 of her own patients in Houston, Texas.
And he's still healing? I mean, it was the cases, the people they healed?
Every patient that she gave it to who was not sick remained not sick.
Okay.
Every sick patient she gave it to was treated successfully and became healthy within 3 to 7 days. And there were no exceptions to that in a group of 450 people.
Wow. It's any side effect?
No side effects at all. The drug is completely safe. In fact, it's sold over the counter in most countries next to the vitamin section because it was originally made from tree bark. It's actually considered a supplement.
Okay.
There's only one condition that you cannot use it for because it causes problems, which is psoriasis. Psoriasis is a skin condition. Other than psoriasis, every person, no matter what your age, sex, health status, can take the drug safely, and there's no side effects or problems to it at all. It's actually safer than aspirin.
Wow. But
And
it's
Tylenol.
in the market, it's available
In the pharmacy?
In the pharmacy?
It is available and there's plenty of supply, but large pharmacy chains are refusing to honor the prescriptions that the doctors provide.
Wow.
Kroger, Walmart, CVS, Walgreens have all taken a corporate position that they will refuse to fill the drug. They think that they know better than you and your doctor.
Wow.
They refuse to fill it.
So you need prescription if it's on the size of vitamins. Do you still need prescription?
In this country, you do, because it's not over the counter in the United States. It's over the counter in Iran. It's over the counter in all but one African country. It's over the counter in India. It was over the counter in Spain for about 2 months this year. And at that time, their infection rate went down. And then it went back to prescription status. And then the infection rate went up.
Wow.
Interesting. So
And in France, I believe they banned it.
in India, the people they treat with this? In India, because now they have a lot of cases. They are treating with this?
It's interesting, you know, when there's a white paper on the America's Frontline Doctors website that shows all of the summary of evidence about this drug. And there's a graph in that white paper that has 2 groups of countries. Group A, those that do not routinely use hydroxychloroquine for any reason other than lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. Group B, those countries where everybody basically takes the drug for malaria, or the drug was given frequently when coronavirus started spreading in order to treat. And you look at the two groups, and the infection and death rates in the first group, where hydroxychloroquine is not used widely and was not recommended for treatment, death rates are way over here, very high. The other groups where they use it for malaria or it was pushed early in the epidemic, death rates very, very low, like 1/100th of the other group. Not like 10%, 20%, 1/100. That much of a difference. There's almost no cases in Africa. If you look on the global health map where it has the colors of the infection, whereas white is no infection, dark red is very, very infected. All of Africa is like very pale orange. It's very, very, very light color. India is also actually fairly low. They have over 1 billion people. They've had very few deaths. And these are countries where people live crowded conditions, multi-generational families in small spaces, poor health, poor sanitation, no access to healthcare, and yet these countries are very, very healthy in terms of this virus. You look at Western Europe.
System. Yeah. What happens?
Because they have access to the drug. And in Western Europe and the US, all the infections are going crazy because nobody's taking this hydroxychloroquine treatment. So it's pretty obvious.
It's prevention. It's also good for prevention.
Both. If you take it once a week with zinc, it prevents the infection almost 100%. And if you do get sick, you have to take it every day for about 5 to 7 days, along with some other drugs that you have to get from the hospital. And that also prevents worsening and death by over 90%.
Wow. So what do you think about eventual vaccine?
I think the vaccine is a pipe dream. It's a myth. It's like the Soviet 5-year plan. And you know all about that. Comrades, we'll all work really hard. We're gonna plant the potatoes and work 12 hours a day in the fields, and then in 5 years you're all gonna be living like kings, and we're not gonna have to work anymore. And everybody works, and then in 5 years, after all the money has been squeezed out of the peasants and the people at the top have their caviar and their beluga and their vodka, and they're living fat, they say, oh, sorry, comrades, it didn't work out this time. But you know what? I've got another plan, and I guarantee you in 5 years, it's all going to be different. And then fast forward 60 years later, and you know what happened. So the vaccine is like the 5-year plan. It's never going to happen. We're going to get one that's maybe partially effective. It's not going to be safe. It's going to be very expensive. People aren't going to want to get it. And then after 6 months, 9 months, the infection's going to come back. The government's going to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. This vaccine wasn't quite as good as we thought, but you know what? We've got another one that's even better. So just stay at home for 1 more year, and I promise you things will get better in 2022. And we're going to be doing this forever.
This is a problem.
But what about the flu vaccine?
Flu vaccine is limited effective. It only works about 30% of the time, and most people don't take it. It's not a bad thing, but it doesn't really have that much benefit for people who get the flu, and it doesn't really limit the spread of infection very much at all.
So actually we have to build our immune system, and even people who are become immune on the coronavirus.
Yes, we heard cases, the people they had after they didn't had even this tested, you know, the test. I don't know if to believe in any test.
The tests are useless.
Yes,
they have no value.
Yes, cases that the people they were tested after it was positive, negative, positive, the same.
Correct.
I mean,
the tests are useless.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, in our country, because we are very close to Greece, and a lot of Romanian people they go in Greece for vacation. The cases start to increase when the Greece put mandatory to have the test if you want to go in the country. And the people start testing, and the cases was like, on the paper, everything is up every day, but because of the testing, not because of the real coronavirus.
Well, what if you were told that if you have blood type AB, that you're going to kill people? And so we start testing for blood, and as we more and more tests, we see more and more people with positive blood type AB. And then every day the news says, more AB blood types discovered. cases rising. Well, it was the same all along. It's just that now you're just uncovering more of it.
Yeah.
So these tests don't really show any change. All they show is expansive, more mandated coverage of infections. And the cases that you look at, they're always cumulative. It's not a rate, it's accumulation.
Yeah.
And one person can get tested 6, 8, 10 times. And each time it's a new case.
Right.
So the tests just keep going up, 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 up. And
it's a new case. I mean, they count a new case even it's the same person.
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And you know what? If you go to the hospital now, let's say you want to go to the hospital because you have your appendix needs to be taken out because you have appendicitis. The first thing they do is they test you for coronavirus.
Wow.
I don't care if you're sick or not. You could be totally healthy. They test you if the test is positive, even if it's not accurate. You are now a coronavirus positive patient and you are hospitalized with coronavirus, even though you're there for your appendix.
Wow.
So until we were doing this in hospitals, there were very few people getting tested who weren't symptomatic. You only went to get a test if you felt like you had a fever or you're coughing. Now, every single person that goes to the hospital, if you just want to get your fingernail, cut,
Yeah.
you have to get the test. So now all these tests are coming up positive, but the people aren't sick. They're not getting sick.
They want numbers on the paper.
That's
As
right.
Numbers.
I never liked horror movies.
So you're not a big fan of this then. This is like a horror movie. The monsters are everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What is your vision for the future, where we are, and what is the vision for 1 year from now, 2 years, 5 years? What is your vision?
The vision dress up in the hope.
Yeah, because my vision right now, when I don't dress it up in hope, is a very ugly monster.
Exactly. So let's make the word beautiful in dressing up in hope.
Well, with hope, what I see is everyday Americans who are now living either in fear or they're just living a life of sort of naive disconnection from the world, waking up, going out, and demanding that their lives be given back to them so that they can make their own choices. Whether they're scared or not scared, that's not the point. I want all Americans, and I see this happening throughout different parts of the country, but I want to see it spread more. I want to see all Americans waking up, going outside and saying, you know what? I have the legal and moral right to decide if I want to go to the park, if I want to go shopping, if I want to go to my office, if I want to have my children go to school or not. If I want to stay home, that's my choice too. But I have the right to make that decision. I have the right for my doctor to give me treatment that I want and to talk to my doctor and to go to the pharmacy and get it. If only we had just people demanding that they actually make their own decisions freely, then I think our country would come right back again to a position where we could start to rebuild and we could start to move forward and we could start healing some of these wounds and build back our financial structure, build back our physical health, our emotional health. And I think that if we could do that within about a year, I think we'd actually be doing really well. And in fact, maybe even better, because people would now start to recognize that their happiness, their ability to succeed and grow is not given to them by the government.
Exactly.
This is the point.
It's like we are guides, like machines, like robots from the government.
And you know what? I think that what you said, to reclaim the rights and the freedom. I mean, if somebody has now the awareness that, okay, I have to reclaim my inner freedom and to start from that place, not from the place, give me back and from expectation, go back to normal. Now, it's important to reclaim the own freedom. And from there, I mean, in a healthy choices, not going back to the old or back to how it was. not from that place, because it's again, you are waiting and you are waiting, you are not engaging your resources, your gifts, your beauty, your contribution, your mission, purpose. This is not going to happen if somebody is not having this awareness. I reclaim my freedom. I know what I want to be. I want, who am I? Why the God gives me a life. So this is my freedom and my rights from that place.
Yes.
Not from, okay, give me the life back. Like, no, the God gives us life, not the government.
A return back to the foundation of the country, which is that we are given, not by our zookeepers, not by the mayor and the governor and the senator and the president. We're not given anything by them. We arrive here in this world with inalienable rights given to us by God. That's what we have to get back to. And people, if they woke up to that, it would shake everything up.
Yes.
But that has to happen, because if we continue to wait for someone out there to fix things for us, we will never, ever be able to return to a position of empowerment and freedom. So that's my vision for how things will change. Now, will that happen or not? I have no idea. But I think we're at a fork in the road where we're either going to go to that good direction, or we're going to give everything up and basically become slaves. We're going to become like the people in the former Soviet Union and all of the countries that it conquered, which you're obviously, you know all about this. That is not a future that is bright. That is a dark, that is a horror movie.
Yes, I feel back in time. I feel in a communist, seriously, I feel in that fear. I feel in that collective.
Very, very similar.
Yes.
The language, the tactics, the censorship, the lies, the intimidation, the secret behind the scenes, pressure, the going after friends and associates and trying to intimidate people to shut up and obey is basically, that is the phrase that I hear underneath all the time. Shut up and obey.
But you know what? We have a scene, my sister and I, we say, like, nothing can stop us dancing. So nothing. So we have to go to dance. We have to go to express ourselves. And that's why we are here today, because we want people like you, like us, to be together and to give hope to others, because I think that we have this power in us. And I think every single day,
and every person has this power.
Yeah, every person has this power. And why we don't go and be more together and show up
and dancing life?
Yeah, dancing more.
Which is the ultimate expression of freedom, which is why Iran captures and imprisons women who make dance videos on their balconies.
Yeah, exactly.
They arrest them.
Wow.
In Iran.
Because dancing, it's, you move your thoughts, you move your body, you move your emotions, everything is movement. Life is movement. We have to go out to dance.
And it's dangerous to people who want to control you, because you can't control somebody who's moving freely, and that's a threat. Yeah. So this is why that sort of movement in a physical and in an intellectual way has been so attacked, and the people have been personally attacked, not for the ideas, because the ideas are strong. They've been attacked behind. They go around them. They attack their person. They attack their friends, their family. Yeah. They attack their character, because the ideas are so dangerous that the powers that are over us, they don't want to allow that energy to be released, because if it were, they would lose all of their ability to control people.
Yes, it's true. It's true, and it's sad.
And it's important we remain with this hope, and to create this hope. And I wish to have a power to have this, our hope and our positivity and our vision about the world we want to live in, to create such a blueprint for the to create a different virus of happiness and joy and hope to people, and to spread. This is my prayer. And thank you so much for your contribution, being together. And as I told you, I am the work-life balance committee chair. So
for the Bar Association.
Yes, Bar Association. that would be nice to invite you when I'm gonna create the next meeting. I think it's August 13. We have that meeting, and you are welcome to join the committee meeting, and to see what projects we can do deeply, and also to help lawyers, and to bring more hope, and to cope with fear, because this is the most important.
I think it is. This is the linchpin under which everything else is connected.
Yeah.
It has to be faced directly.
Yes.
Nothing else we're doing is going to make any difference if we don't accept that this is really the core problem.
Yes.
No masks and distancing and staying at home. These things are not solutions. They're not strategies. They're defensive, nervous reactions to an underlying control, which is the fear.
And the different sides of the coin is love.
Yeah.
If you can feel that sense of freedom and embracing, despite the fear, embracing intimacy and connection with other people, then all of this other stuff goes away.
Yeah.
But people have to make that choice.
Win.
Yeah.
And then you win. Yeah, I agree. Well, let me know when you're planning to have your specific meetings or programs, and if I'm able to
send your information.
Yeah.
Okay. Be happy to do
It's
that.
very nice having you, Mark.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Nice connecting and having you in our eLAWvated talk. And let's keep in touch and organize more events on this topic.
Oh, it would be great. Be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we keep in touch. Have a great day. Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.